BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
This is The Verb, Radio 3's weekly dance through language's crowded, thoughtful, exuberant spaces. Each week we'll hear new poetry, prose and drama, words that reach the edge of the page, words that are scattered across the page, and words that stand centre stage. Welcome to the Ship's Biscuits, Goblins, Whales, Orange-themed hotels, horse chestnut, formica table, Verb. In the last year, we've laid out this all-you-can-eat image buffet for your delight and mine. And tonight, we're going to feast on it. I'm talking about the language of our series of Something New poems, dozens of brand new commissions to mark 100 years of poetry on the radio by writers we want you to hear. Taken together, we reckon they'll help us test the poetic temperature of a nation. You've heard one a week, and now we're bringing all the pieces of the jigsaw together, voices from all over the map, to see where we go from here, what images we might ride on into the future. And if that jigsaw was of galloping horses, then the riders this week are Michael Simmons-Roberts, poet, playwright and former radio producer; Amanda Priestley, sound artist and aficionado of leaf fall and other sound that adds depth; Kate Fox, stand-up poet and sit-down listener; and Jacob Polley, one of our Something New alumni. His poem Speaker has been turned into sound art, what I think of as Radio 3 3D, as part of the BBC Sound First initiative to find the best emerging audio design talent in the UK. You're about to hear the work of sound designer Nicky Elson, so here's Speaker by Jacob Polley.
The boy extended the aerial and clicked the switch to on, and out of the static from the little transistor radio, a voice said,
"When I found the little transistor radio at the church bringing by, I'd already been in there for as long as I'd been a little boy at home, eating spaghetti with grated cheese and getting bathed."
Click. The thing was that he was a little boy, and he'd found this little transistor radio at the church bringing by. Click.
I'd own my own doorstep, known wet slate roofs and the sky through twigs. And all the while, I'd also known the smell of warming dust, hidden components, and the soft light behind the faceplate. "Let me out," I'd often shouted, but it was only when I got the radio up to my bedroom that I heard my own small cries from behind the frequency dial.
Click. He'd brought this radio up to his bedroom. Click.
"Let me out,"
said the voice he was certain now was his own.
"I can't,"
he whispered into the speaker's grill. He was twisting the tuner now. He wanted to lose himself in the static of moderate to heavy rain, putting money in the pockets of ordinary men and women, carried far from the disaster on the wind, and howling at the border where their desperate need was met with Vaughan Williams' Serenade in A minor to conclude this evening's broadcast.
Who can be helped and who can't among the constant stream of newcomers is heartbreaking.
Click,
"If I let you out,"
whispered the boy, cradling the little radio under his bedclothes.
who would do all the voices?
Until the next time, a very good night.
That's an astonishing piece of radio, and what really moved me was hearing the child's voice reading the poems. It somehow put the lines in a different context. It made me think of how you have to write things, and when they're heard and when they're spoken by somebody else, a child, they become very, very, very different. Michael, what did you think of that piece?
I loved it, and I love the idea that it ends with who will do all the voices. It made me think of the idea, maybe we've lost this now with DAB radio and all the convenience of that. The idea that when you had an old-fashioned radio, you would spin the little wheel and you could get snippets of Morse code or something in a language you didn't understand or bits of interference. And it actually felt like any voice could come out of there. If ever I believed in the possibility of haunting, it would be through that radio. There's something about the detuned, between settled voices of a radio before it conjures a new voice that was absolutely magical. I remember that from childhood as well. The child's voice is eerie and wonderful and strange.
What did you make of it, Kate? Because I felt like I was in some kind of wonderful sound bath.
Absolutely. Well, because I noticed at one point, because I'd heard that piece just once before we were talking about it, but not with headphones on, there was some sort of sound magic happened, and the sound moved about from ear to ear, and then it sort of flooded me, and I was like, hang on, I've now stepped into this actually quite spooky ghost story / play.
Well, Jacob, tell us about how you and Nicky Elson came to record The Child's Voice. Whose voice is that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's the voice of my son, actually. So when Nicky and I were thinking about the poem and thinking about how that voice might happen, because, you know, Nicky just had my recording of the poem, the poem of me kind of speaking it in my voice. And he ran through some options of kind of altering my voice and change, you know, pitching it up or something like that. And we suddenly thought, why don't we just get my son to read it? Because I thought his voice kind of has the cadence of mine a little bit in some way, because he's kind of related to me, I suppose. And it just suddenly worked. And, you know, he was brilliant at doing those takes and doing that, you know, doing that job.
The language is then, it has a different kind of depth to it. Have you thought about getting your son to read aloud other poems that you've written? Because that would be another draft of the poem in a way.
I do get him to do that. I mean, I don't want to sound as if I put my son to work kind of...
Up the poetry chimney, as it were.
Up the poetry chimney, exactly. But when I am doing some work, he often does come and you know, have a look and wonder what I'm doing. And I do often say, would you read that for me? You know, read it out loud for me. Because there's something really interesting about, I mean, I often record myself, you know, reading a poem in order to listen back and hear what it sounds like. But there's something about having him make his way through, he's 8, by the way, but to have him make his way through a poem and try to make sense of it off the page or off the screen, that's really useful for me and really interesting.
And the transistor that you mentioned, that Nicky made us feel like we're almost inside it, is it you that actually went to buy them in bring and buy sales and took them to bits?
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't want to say, you know, poems are true or anything like that. But when this commission happened, which, you know, is a wonderful commission, what immediately bloomed in my head was this long kind of forgotten memory of buying these transistor radios and, you know, finding them at bring and buy sales.
Because it still feels like part of this old world where you can actually unscrew the back of something and find these things, which you can't do these days. My dad, who was born in 1919 and died many years ago, but he thought that there were actually people in the radio who spoke to him, and when he turned the radio off, they sat down. On what he described as kitchen chairs. They'd sit down in the chair, wait for John Macmillan to turn the radio on again, then they could start talking to you. And in the poem, there's actually 3 voices. There's the child inside the radio, the child outside the radio, and this narrator voice. And the relationship between them sounds mysterious to me, which I like. And is it meant to be mysterious, Jacob?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's quite hard to say what it's meant to be, but I think that mystery's there for me as well. You know, I don't quite know what's happening. I think all I wanted to do was write a piece that was for voices. It seemed really obvious to me that it's a commission to celebrate the BBC, and it's to kind of celebrate the radio in some ways, and so it had to be in different voices. So as soon as I started to kind of think about that, I wanted to somehow nest these voices. You know, there's a nesting of those voices in the narrator's voice, and then I suppose there's the radio voices there at the end, those talking about tax and disaster and stuff like that, where there are many more voices. And I was actually encouraging Nicky to forget my words in that section and just kind of cut together, radio audio, kind of found audio, because I kind of wanted that sense of, as Michael alluded to, all that sound stuff just kind of pouring in, juxtaposed, cut together. But yeah, I wanted it to be a little drama, I suppose, because I associate again the radio with audio drama.